Florida State lands, at the time that they got this flip, the best tight end in the country when they flipped him from Georgia to Florida State, and now the signature meets the paper as Landen Thomas, from not too far from these parts here in Tallahassee, has signed with Florida State. This is a high-caliber tight end, and I know that Dominic Robinson, while he played on both sides of the ball in college, Papa Robinson likes this position just a little bit because of what's going on Saturdays in the West Coast of the country. He's our lead football analyst, Dominic Robinson, breaking down the film for 2024 players for us here on Warchant TV. And when you watch Dominic Landen Thomas, what kind of football player do you see?
I see a player who's got great change of direction for his body. You'll see multiple plays where there's some run after the catch, or where he's making cuts and making guys miss. That you like to see, where he's running routes where he's got to change directions. It's not just a fade ball, which is what you typically see with the big body tight end. And so this is a guy who I think one of the things that existed at Florida State forever, when I became a fan, was every player at Florida State was the best athlete on their team when they were in high school. And then when I got to Florida State, it was the same thing. Every player that I played with was, Rufus Brown, who was a cornerback, played quarterback in El Paso. Anquan Bolden, who was a wideout, played quarterback in high school. He's the best athlete at his school. Chris Ricks, who was the quarterback for us, was a high level baseball player. When you watch Landen Thomas, although he's a tight end, you can see, he's that wildcat quarterback. That gives you such great information on who he is. One, it tells you that he's dependable. It tells you that the guys love him. It tells you that the coach, he means a lot to the coach. Coach isn't putting a guy at quarterback who they can't depend on. Coach isn't putting a guy at quarterback who's not a leader. So when he's playing wildcat quarterback, that gives me great information on terms of, this is the best athlete on the team. There's a route right there where it just incredible, stick nod. It's called a stick nod. It's a double route. Let's run that back, Ben. You'll see him stick his foot in the ground. You got to stick your foot in the ground twice. This is something that usually big body guys can't do. If you go back just a little bit further. So typically a big body guy isn't going to be able to do this well. He's got to stick. He's got to make two sticks and then avoid the guy who's inside leverage on him. That takes a lot more than it looks like. That's usually a little guy's route where you got to, it's an out and up or, rail and go. And he does that, makes the guy defender miss. And then again, another catch with his hands away from his body. That's the other thing that I loved, was his willingness to extend his arms away from his body. You see him going over the middle, and on all of these catches, he's extending his arms away from his body, which usually with the big body guys, they want to catch the ball within their body. They're just not confident enough to get their hands away from their body. And then, here again, this is a screen that you're throwing to your tight end, down here in the red zone, which we've seen Mike Norvell likes. Now, this is the point where the film really turns and it gets to bully ball. He starts getting nasty here. Here he is on punt team. Here he is running counter where he's got to pull around and kick a guy out. Here he is out on the edge, just making a nasty block out here in space. And then, here he is in the wing, going split zone. That's where, if this guy was ranked the number one tight end in the country, that's probably where that comes from. I'm not saying that he isn't great when he's split out, but there's few guys that can split out and do what he does and just do what we just saw in those last 4 clips. That's the separator. And that's where you start to get excited about what he can bring, because when you see him as a flex wideout, you see a good player. But when you see a guy play bully ball like he just did, you start to see a great player.
So, Dominic, I salivate at those clips when I think about Mike Norvell's offense and the fit within the
Yeah.
offense. This can be a featured player in more of an unheralded quote unquote position, but this could be a featured player in Mike's offense because of all the things he asks out of the tight end / H-back / whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, this was the one that if I were to say who fits best in terms of the recruiting class, this is the guy. Absolutely. All of those clips that we just saw are exactly, aside from the Wildcat quarterback, are exact things that they asked Jaheim Bell to do this year. The split zone, blocking the backside end, the counter, trying to wrap and block the end. Obviously the special teams, bully ball is that's something that when you're young, you should be on special teams. You got to be on special teams. So those are things that he's going to be asked to do within the FSU offense. So if he's been coached and taught to do that already and feels comfortable and competent there, he's going to definitely give himself a leg up to get himself on the field early.
So this gets interesting to me then as we pull up your scale of prospect ratings and what they can do in terms of instant impact to Florida State or early impact, or whether or not they're going to be a player that takes some time to develop into something of a starter or a contributor. When you talk about best fit, quote unquote, how does Landen Thomas stand up on your scale here from 1 all the way to 4.5?
Yeah, really close to that 3.5 where he's going to be pushing to start in year one. Maybe close to that Cam Davis area where I have a 3.25 where he's clearly an instant contributor and but maybe not starting just because I don't know what the current class will have in terms of the transfer portal and whatnot. But this is a guy who's going to play year one. And I don't know how strong he is. Although, when you see a guy, manhandling guys in high school, that doesn't always translate because you don't always know the competition. So, but I definitely see in terms of what he's been asked to do in high school and then what he'll be asked to do in Mike Norvell's offense, there isn't a better fit in terms of guys, in terms of players, and then the attributes that they have. He fits perfectly. He can do them at a high, all the things that he's asked to do in the FSU offense, he's already doing at a highly proficient rate. So now it's just a matter of how quickly can you make the transition to the speed of the game and all of the things that are asked of you at the college level, which is a lot of times a lot more than what's asked of you at the high school level.
The best athlete on his high school team. That's been a theme here from Dominic Robinson, the lead football analyst at Warchant.com, with what Florida State has brought in their 2024 recruiting class. To see more of these videos, we've got a series of more than a half dozen of them here on Warchant TV. Check out the channel top to bottom. You'll see players on both sides of the football. Dominic breaks them all down for you, and we've got full coverage of the early signing period, from coaching press conferences to instant reaction, impact flips, anything like that. You can find it right here on Warchant TV. It's always absolutely free, so hit the subscribe button underneath the video and the like. For Dominic, I'm Tom, and thanks as always to Director Ben behind the scenes for moving the things around, making us look good. We'll talk to you next time here on Warchant TV.